The gold or gold command meetings, accepting that you don't like the term, that seems to be what they were at least colloquially referred to as. They are somewhat mysterious to us in the sense that they weren't minuted, were they?
There were not minutes taken of them in the way that you have cabinet minutes. That is certainly the case, because they were not decision-making meetings in the way cabinet meetings were. However, and I believe, forgive me if I'm misinformed here, I believe the inquiry has papers that went with and around those meetings, slide packs that would inform the discussion, agendas of the issues we were going to discuss, and where there had been actions out of these meetings, usually to do further work to inform decisions, then notes of action points. And I've certainly, the committee, the inquiry, apologies, had asked me to review some of that. So I've reviewed that paperwork, and I know that that is there. But in many of these meetings, the purpose of them was, Cabinet had choices and options, but no Cabinet on any issue, anywhere, sits with a blank sheet of paper. So there is a process of shaping the options that will then become the decisions that Cabinet takes. And these meetings were often to try to shape those options. So in a sense, the output of those meetings, and I use this term loosely, the minutes of those meetings are the Cabinet papers that then go to Cabinet for decision, because that is what comes from these meetings into the Cabinet papers that then inform and shape the decisions Cabinet reaches.
We've certainly had access to certain action points. They don't relate to every gold meeting. We've struggled rather to work out even when the gold meetings took place. We have to look at other documents to tell us when they might have happened. We have seen action points, not in relation to all of the meetings that appear to have happened, but the action points appear very much to be effectively the conclusion of the meeting rather than any discussion as to how those conclusions were reached. Therefore, is it fair to say that the documentation to which you refer does not tell us the salient points that were discussed in the conduct of government business at those meetings?
So I think, yes, I think that would be fair, and there is undoubtedly a learning point for government here, and it's not any longer for me, but I'm sure the Scottish Government will be reflecting on this. I think around, the impression that can be created when you give, grand names to fairly routine meetings, and I've already made that point, but more substantively, to make sure that there is a clearer record of these discursive, non-decision-making meetings that are discursive and there for the purpose of shaping the decisions that have to be taken by Cabinet. So, yes, I would accept that can, to somebody outside the process, it would be helpful if that was clearer. I can look at Cabinet papers, not minutes, but Cabinet papers, putting the proposals for decision or the options for decision to Cabinet, and I know that that effectively reflects the discussion that we would have had in these meetings, because that was how we shaped the options and decisions that were coming to Cabinet.
Is there a theme developing in the areas we've already looked at, Ms Sturgeon, that the Scottish Government does not like light to be shined on the way in which discussions leading to decisions have taken place?
No, I would very, very strongly refute that. And, this is a point I've made a number of times already this morning, and forgive me for repeating it, but I do think it is extremely important. I have, in preparation for coming here today, and some of these the committee specifically drawn my attention to, I have looked at all of the Cabinet papers and minutes over that whole period. It runs to thousands of pages, and that paperwork doesn't simply record the decision that was reached. It records the options that Cabinet considered, the pros and cons of each of these options, the reasoning and the evidence that underpinned both the presentation of the options and the decision that was reached. And then the Cabinet minutes, often over several pages, records a very detailed summary of the discussion around the Cabinet table. And I do believe that not only gives a comprehensive record of the decisions that the Scottish Cabinet reached in relation to COVID, but also the thought processes, the reasoning, the rationale, and the factors that were considered in the process of reaching these decisions.
The gold meetings, as we're calling them, were often attended by Mr Youssef, is that right?
I don't have the attendance list in front of me, but yes,
broadly,
that would have been the case when he was Health Secretary, yes.
And often attended by Ms Lloyd?
There would have been a special advisor in them and officials there and somebody from my private office.
If their position at this inquiry were that the gold meetings were a decision-making body, would they be wrong about that?
Yes, the gold meetings were not. Cabinet was the decision-making body.